From 0 being the least to 10 being the highest, how would you rate communication in your relationship? Does your spouse often complain about feeling unheard? Do you even know if you are a good or bad communicator? We will be assessing some points and you want to listen to the end. Thank you for joining us. I am Chidi Akunna.
And I'm Victor Akunna.
Hey, if you're new to our channel, Foundation for Family Affairs, please feel free to hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it so you're notified when we drop our content. At Foundation for Family Affairs, our mission is to connect hearts and raise healthy families. What's the state of communication in your marriage? What's the state of communication in your marriage? Do you think it's okay? What point have you rated yourself? If you're happy to share, we'll be happy to hear from you. Leave it in the comment section.
Absolutely.
I will be happy to read from you. Today we've come your way with a video we have titled Behaviours of Bad Communicators. We have seen communication rock things in marriage. Hey, you don't want to know. You know when they say communication is key in any relationship, it is the lifeblood of any relationship. If it's not in place, then what are we doing? How sustainable is our relationship?
If I like this phrase you use, it's the lifeblood. In other words, just think about a human being now. The blood is not in the body. The person is practically dead. So if communication is not functional, your communication in your relationship is not active, is not working well, it's called, that's SOS. You have to, it's call for concern. Because when communication is fixed, it will address the issues of around finance, around sex. Because it's like a fundamental thing. You can't talk about building something without talking about the foundation. So communication is very, very basic, very, very fundamental. So that's one thing we want to talk about today. I know many people have heard the word communication many times. So, but what exactly is communication? And then we had to go and dig deep and look at the root word from where it came from. So it's a Latin word called communicate. And that Latin word comes from another word that means to share.
Communis.
Yeah, communis. Thank you. That means to share. That means to do what do you call it now? To make common, to make public. So that means information flowing from one person, feelings flowing from one person, ideas flowing from one person to another person with the thoughts. So the other person must receive it with the same idea you had in mind. So if I'm thinking, I'm trying to communicate something to my wife and I'm saying blue and she's hearing red, though I'm talking, communication is not taking place. So until she gets the idea of blue in her mind, that's when communication really happens. So, but there are specific qualities that play out that will make a spouse say, I don't feel heard. Some of the things that you talked about earlier, I don't feel heard. I don't feel like this relationship works for me. I feel like my idea don't matter. What are those qualities that you are exhibiting that will make your spouse complain this way? That's what we're looking at today.
So we'll be highlighting some points you may want to consider. These are points of bad communicators. But hey, we'll be telling you there are things you can do about them.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the first point we have for you today is assuming you know what your partner wants to say or has in mind. Okay. Assuming you know how your partner feels, what your partner has in mind. You would always cite Dr. Sam Adeyemi. Okay. When he says assumption is the lowest level of knowledge. How do you just decide you know what the other has in mind? Okay, and that's why it's important for you to communicate.
Absolutely.
You need to be asking questions. You need to be exploring what you think.
Absolutely.
Because what you think may not be what is.
Why that is so crucial is because, like the common saying, we all come from various backgrounds. So there are things that mean specific things to me. There are symbols that I attach specific feelings to, so specific meanings. That will be different from the meaning you attach to it. Based on my history, based on my background, I have different interpretation for different things. So maybe if you grew up in a house, for example, where when someone is frowning, it means that they are not happy with you. And your spouse grew up in a house where when someone is frowning, it means that they are not happy. Two separate things. So one person is feeling like, what did I do to her again? Another person is feeling like, what can I do to help? Two separate things. So one key thing there is that people's background has a lot to play on the meaning they attach to things, their view of the world.
Yeah.
So that means you can't just assume that what your spouse is doing means X and Y and Z. You have to be able to ask them. So let's say you come from a house. When a husband returns home late, it means it's cheating. Another person comes from a home where when a husband returns home late, maybe he or she saw his or her dad returning home late because he was working, schooling at the same time, was trying to pay fees, was trying to do all that. So that's the meaning. So, but the same situation, based on the experiences of the past, people are attaching different interpretation, different meanings to it. All right. So that's why you can't just say my wife is like this because of the experience you've had in the past. Ask her. Find out, give her the benefit of the doubt, and see how things can improve.
I like that. That's really good. So don't just conclude. Query. All right. Okay, so the second point we have for you is constantly criticizing the other. And when we say this, we do not mean constructive criticism, because that's good. You need to welcome that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I mean, your spouse should be able to give you construct. If they are not, then there is a problem.
There's a problem.
Okay, it's either you shut that person out so the person feels okay, just carry on with whatever you have to do. But when we talk about constantly criticizing the other, that's you tearing down the other. Okay, your words are not uplifting. Your words rather bring down. You see whatever the person has done, and there's no good in it. You never have any good remark to make about anything good. That's how this person feels. Okay, and we would always encourage spouses not to discount how their spouses feel. It may not be your intention, but the way you're communicating it, that's how it comes across to your spouse.
Absolutely.
And if your spouse definitely feels like that, then you need to pause and then query, how can I review the way I communicate so I can get through to my spouse in a better way?
Sometimes I've seen people that they are not even aware that they have become so toxic.
Yes.
So maybe something they are going through at work, and so they are unable to manage the stress. So everything is just getting at them, work challenges, and they just become toxic. Sometimes people become toxic because that's their experience, that's the example they have seen modeled to them. And so they just talk, based on, this is how I feel, I just want to say my mind. So if that is you, this video is for you. Take time to reflect, to ask yourself, if I were to be on the other side on the way I talk, will I like it? If my spouse was to talk to me the way I talk to her or talk to him, will I appreciate it? All right. So some people come from families where people, that's the normal way they talk. They just make very sarcastic comments and they think it's okay. Nobody takes offense. But this is not your family.
Your spouse doesn't like it.
Does not like it. Yes. Thank you. That's the emphasis. Yes. Does not like it. You have to appreciate that this is a new family. You have to, you now have to agree on how you want to talk within this family. I know this is easier said than done, but this first thing there is to become aware of how your communication is hurting your spouse. Once you find out that, you now need to decide to change. Because if you don't change, things will change for the worse. That's how it is.
I like that point, because there must be some willingness on your part to make some adjustments.
Yes.
Okay. Otherwise, you may not like the result. Okay. So the next point we have for you is always interrupting the other. Always interrupting the other. And we consider this a sign of disrespect.
Absolutely.
To the other. That's because you're simply saying, I know better. Okay, you don't know as much as I do. Okay, or your words will not come across as weighty or as beneficial to me as my words come across to me. So, I mean, if you have a spouse, you should be wanting to know what the other has to say. Okay, it's not you doing all the talking all the time. Now, this is okay, because there are scenarios where the case is that some people are unconscious about it. They do not realize that they're constantly interrupting. If you have a spouse who is a slow speaker and you're someone who speaks really fast, you may not realize that there are times you need to stop because the slow person is trying to get a word in, and if you keep interjecting, he may either lose his trail of thought or just decide it's a lot of hard work keeping up, so I'll just stop. Okay, so it's important that you observe, okay, like you were talking about, identify. Do I do this? okay, maybe that's why he stopped talking. If it's someone who used to talk before, or he doesn't talk as much as I expect, okay, and then see how you can review things. In reviewing things, it's just you saying, I need to slow down a bit for this person to talk. Allow the other to talk. Ask questions that will elicit the responses you want. Okay, that's you inviting the other to open up.
Wow, that's good. And this is so critical. Interrupting based on etiquette is rude. And you don't want to be a rude person. All right, so let's just put that out there. It's rude to interrupt another person. Now, sometimes people interrupt because or sometimes people interrupt not by saying something. Sometimes they interrupt by shutting down the conversation. So let's say you are having a conversation with your spouse and they disagree with you vehemently, strongly, emotionally disagree with you, and they just say, "You know what? I don't want to talk about this," and they just shut down. That is you also interrupting the relationship, interrupting the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's another way some people they kind of implode. Some people interrupt by exploding, by being out there, by saying, "You know what? Yeah, say something. Say something." They just want to hijack the conversation. All right. So, but some people interrupt by shutting down. You know what? I don't know why he always sees things like this. I don't know why she always sees things like this. No, you do not marry yourself. This is a different human being, has different frame of reference. So it's a good thing for someone to have a different perspective. You don't have to agree 100%. The goal of marriage is not to be the same. We say this very often. It's not to be the same, not to be identical, but to be one, to be unified. That's the goal. All right, so you can be different. In fact, that's what we call diversity and inclusivity and inclusion. There is benefit, there is value in people being different, because that's what you bring. If you are able to harness that in any relationship, you will be able to do well.
I like that point, because sometimes too, I was just thinking as you were speaking, that's why I smiled. Some people interrupt or speak not because they think it's disrespectful. Some don't realize it's disrespectful.
Absolutely,
it's just their way of communicating. Yes. Okay, so the next point we have for you is being defensive when your spouse tries to speak to you. Being defensive. You smile. Do you want to take it then?
Yeah, well, being defensive, why? Because the thing about it is, sometimes being defensive has a good intention behind it, because the person is trying to protect themselves. You don't want your spouse to judge you, to analyze what you've said. So you just, before your spouse comes at you, you quickly say, what do you mean? So I didn't like the way you left the tray, or I didn't like the way you left your bag by the entrance. It was going to trip someone. What do you mean? The other day too, you did X, Y, Z. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the bag causing health hazard or health and safety. Being in the moment. That's what we're talking about. Some people become defensive, and instead of apologizing and try to find a way to address the issue, they try to look for the fault of their spouse. So it's sometimes because of low self-esteem, sometimes because people have gotten in the past, so they're trying to protect themselves. No, your spouse is not the opponent, it's not the enemy. That is an issue that your spouse is addressing. Address the issue and take out personalities out of it.
Sometimes this defensive thing, people don't plan for it. So it just happens. It could be a habit. And that's why we're putting this out there, so we can look into our lives and see areas, because you could be fine, your relationship might be doing okay, you may have even rated your communication really high, but when you look deep, you might say, oh, if I stopped this, then I think we would be way up.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's what it should be, really, that we review things in our relationship. So we're calling you to review your communication. I think we did this. I won't tell you where I defaulted. No, I won't do that. I'm not going to wash my dirty linens in public. Okay, let's take the next point. Silent treatment and stonewalling. We've just married the two. We'll talk about, they're very similar just slight differences. Okay, so silent treatment is just you at that point where it's not going your way, then you shut shut down communication with your attitude. You go quiet on the other. Okay, and stonewalling is you just built that wall. You wrecked it. You like to call it a formidable fortress.
Yes.
So it's just there. Your spouse can't penetrate that wall. You know.
And sometimes, the intention is to protect, if someone who is trying to stonewall is trying to protect themselves from hurts. While, what do you call it now? What's the other one we're talking about? Silent treatment is when, because you have not had your way, you're trying to punish your spouse for doing something or not doing something. So they're asking you, what are we going to eat? I don't know. Anything you want. Is there a problem? I don't know. Does it look like there's a problem? If there's a problem, let me know. That's that's silent treatment.
Yeah, and it's really heavy.
Yeah, so you're not communicating, but you are trying to gaslight the person. You're trying to make the person feel like there's no problem. I don't know what you are noticing. So because you want to bring the person to the point where you bring them to their knees, that's really what do you call it now? Sinister.
And a lot of things would have led to this point in a relationship. And that's why it's good to resolve issues. I mean, we can't overemphasize this point. Resolve issues on time. Time is of the essence in marriage, on issues. We need to be looking into this. Even if you're upset at the time, yes, we always would advise you call time. But ensure that issue is addressed. That time when you both are happy again, maybe you bring up that issue. Okay, this thing, not in a way that rocks the atmosphere in the marriage again, but ensure that issue is dealt with.
Absolutely.
You want to say something?
No, cool.
Okay, so the other one is refusing to compromise or listen to the views of the other. You've married two things here again. Refusing to compromise, and this is just when you're set on how you want it done. Okay, maybe there's an issue up for communication at that point, and you're insisting, no, it's not going to be this way. So in expressing your thoughts, you won't budge. You're there, and the other is trying to sell a perspective to you. Okay, which you need to consider because, like you always say, nobody knows it all.
Nobody knows it all.
Yeah,
yep.
And that's why there are two of us here. That what's in my blind spot, you reveal. Okay, so and that's the disposition you should have. Is there something I'm missing? Is there something my spouse is seeing that I haven't noticed? But we must be willing to let go of, because sometimes they are on opinions that we hold strongly or on things that have worked in the past. Okay, and here you are in a marriage and you feel, what rights does my spouse have to correct this thing? I've done this for these number of years before meeting this person. Okay, but it's just nice that you listen to know what the other has to say.
Why this is important, because when you don't listen to the perspective of your spouse, you're losing out. This woman right here, highly analytical, highly empathetic, she has a lot of good qualities, she'll be tapping me now not to talk more. But the thing, what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of qualities that your spouse has, I mean, as a woman has intuition, they're able to see things that men can never see. For example, a man wants to buy a particular thing. What is just thinking at, is it the right budget? Is he okay? She's thinking, if you buy this, how will it appear to this person? How will it appear to this person? Is it the right time? What will it affect? She's thinking holistically. And so those are some of the benefits that you have. Someone is your partner. Take advantage of the benefit of the person. Is a human resource. Take advantage of that. Don't because you have an issue. So at work, for example, because you have an issue with someone, maybe the person is an ideas person that knows how to put ideas and bring things together, or knows how to bring different stakeholders together. Because you have an issue with the person, you will not bring the person on your project. Your project will suffer. That's what a lot of people are doing. They have someone who is intelligent, who has specific intelligence, maybe social intelligence or numeric intelligence or spatial intelligence, and they need their spouse on something, but they wouldn't, because I'm not happy with her. You are going to pay for that, because every man will pay for his ignorance. Everyone will pay for his mistake. That's how it is.
Okay, so rather than just shut down on your spouse or walk out or raise your voice or cry or discount what your spouse has to say. You need to be looking at some of the points we've shared and asking yourself, how can I make adjustments? Do I need to be more flexible? Do I need to be more patient with my spouse? Okay, yes, I'm a fast speaker. Do I need to be patient and let the other talk so the other feels heard? Do I need to do more? Because my spouse is calling me to a higher standard, do I need to do more? And that's what we're imploring you to do today. So we have dropped some points here. If you have other points you think might be relevant, please drop them in the comment section. We'll be happy to read from you. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Foundation for Family Affairs, hey, hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it so you're notified when we drop our content. If you think you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up.
Yes,
okay,
please.
and feel free
us
to share this with as many people as possible. We are passionate about seeing marriages thrive.
Absolutely.
We're passionate about seeing relationships blossom, and that's why we do this. So share this with as many people as you know it would benefit. So until we come your way again, it's goodbye from us.
Bye.